What is up, guys, and welcome to the Meeple Minded podcast, the podcast where we talk all things tabletop gaming. My name is Jason.
And I'm James.
How are you doing this week, James?
Not too bad, mate.
Good. Have you had a good week?
I've had a week.
You've had a week?
Yeah, I've had a week.
Oh, well, that doesn't sound like a particularly good week to me.
It's neither good nor bad. It's been a week.
Okay, fair enough. I will accept that. But just lots of work, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I knocked my coffee over this morning. I was most displeased.
That explains everything, Jack. It explains everything.
Right, I cannot function without my cup of coffee in the morning. And I bought it. I walked outside, put it down to tie up a shoelace that had come undone. And as I stood up, I knocked it off the post I put it on. Didn't even get to take a sip of it. It's the most depressing thing ever. When you've bought a drink and you're really looking forward to it, it's just draining away on the ground. Oh
dear. Well, I mean, the first question was this an expensive coffee, or was this one of those cheap coffees that us drivers drink?
It was a McDonald's coffee.
Coffee.
It wasn't like premium coffee.
What you're saying, it was some coffee flavored lava.
It's all right, I suppose. I've had worse.
It's one step up from instant, isn't it, really?
It's ground coffee beans still, so it's better than some places.
This is true. It's very true. What was the coffee of choice? Was it a luxurious?
It was a latte.
It was a latte.
It was a latte.
A latte. Oh, you're one of those people, are you? I was most displeased actually when I was taking my son home to Derby the other day. I went to the M&S at Gatwick Airport. Because,
feeling flush, well.
I was feeling flush. It might explain why I now have no money left. But, I went to the till, and I love it when I see chai latte on the menu. And if I see a chai latte, I have a chai latte, which is nice and flavourful. So I ordered my chai latte. I was like, I got the usual question. Oh, do you want some sugar with that? And, I don't do the whole... No, I'm sweet enough already, because it's just really poncy and it annoys me. But when it's a chai latte, it's like, no, God, no. Please not. The drink is sweet enough, thank you. And it was always really, really hot. And I was like, okay, well, I'll drink this in a bit. Obviously, went down to the train station, got on the train and all of that. All happy. Finally, the drink wasn't quite so lavaretic. Making up words now. So I had a sip, and it was a normal latte. The disheartenment.
The disappointment.
It ruined my entire weekend. I was so livid.
Is the chai latte more expensive?
It is slightly, actually. Yes, it is. So
you got scammed by M&S.
I did. I was so upset. I was really looking forward to that latte as well, and I'm sure my son will attest to how vocally disappointed I was. Well, yeah, there you go.
The cashier in M&S was like, yeah, you paid an extra 30p for the chai latte, and I gave him a regular one. Yep.
Much like every person that works in a board game shop that I walk into, I sold him a game that he didn't even want. So, yeah, there you go. Tabletop coffee talk, James.
Yes.
Tabletop coffee talk. That's what we do here. We don't talk about board games anymore. We talk about coffee. Let's actually talk about some tabletop gaming.
Gaming.
We have been gaming.
We have.
For a couple of weeks, and we'll get on to last week in a minute. But shall we talk about a couple of the games? Let's talk about Distilled. Episode of it coming soon.
Yes.
Because we've been playing this so much. We've played it, 4 or 5 times in the last 2 weeks. I think that speaks for itself. We enjoyed the game.
Yes.
But the last game we played, James, that was tight.
It was.
That was a very, very tight game. And very different.
Yes.
Now, I really enjoyed that game because, one, it was... we all played a different way that we have in every other game. Like for me, for example, I went quite harshly on the factory upgrades.
Yes, indeed.
For that game, which I'd not done before. I've maybe done one upgrade, but this one I went quite heavily on that. And I think you tried something different as well.
I did. So I only bought one factory upgrade.
My usual tactic.
Yeah, so I didn't go fully on the upgrade path. I went with a different method this time of making the first drink, obviously,
Yeah.
When you've only got really 2 that you can make. And as soon as you get that label, putting it on the gain a free recipe,
Yes.
getting the most expensive one
Yep.
as my free one.
It was the tequila in this game.
In this
wasn't
game, it was tequila, and then not aging. Just like, is it worth aging the drink, or is it worth trying to make that drink over and over again?
Yeah.
And just hitting that point, that instant points cost. Is that better than aging it and gambling on how many points I'm going to get?
Yeah. So did you age anything in that game?
I think I aged 1.
Right. I think that was your special, wasn't it? That you ended up aging, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
I
it was.
can't actually remember, but yeah. And, you know, like I said, I tried something different, and we had a new player playing with us as well. But the key thing here is that we did all try something new, yet the scores, I've actually got them here, were very, very close. You won, which was good. Was this the first time you've won Distilled?
I can't remember.
Maybe the first, possibly the second. But you got your highest score, which was 124 points in this one. And this one, from what I remember, you managed to get out ahead, and you held on to that lead, didn't you? By just constantly selling the tequila, which I think is 10 or 14 points as standard.
Yeah.
So you just sold lots of that. Whereas the rest of us, we were aging. You know, I stayed right down in points for the majority of the game, and then all of mine came right in the last couple
which
of
was yes.
rounds.
Now that I remember it, this is the first time I've won because I went on the aging strategy the last game we played, and I think I came second.
Yeah.
And it was very much the same. As like I was really lagging behind.
Yeah.
Right until about turn 6, I think, and then the points started rolling in.
Exactly, but basically exactly the same as what I had. And I came joint second with 107 points. And then the new player came in with 103 points, which is not a bad score, really, for your first play. So the question really is, James, is do you think that is your winning strategy now? Is like, do you think that just selling and selling and selling rather than aging is the way to win, or do you think it
No,
is
I
dependent?
think this is one of the things that we will get into more depth when we actually do the episode. But I think that tactic was very much a combination of the character that I had, because I had quite a bit of starting money.
Yep.
And the fact that by sheer coincidence, I bought my upgrade in the first round, which was the greenhouse, which gave me a free vegetable-based sugar every market phase.
Yeah.
And that is the only reason I could hit tequila every round, because I was getting a free.
Yeah.
I think it requires 3.
From what I remember, yes.
Yeah, and my character's special ability is to buy 3 things from the market instead of 3 basic ingredients from 2. So that strategy, I think, was only viable because by sheer luck, I had the right
combination, the right engine.
The right engine to be able to do it. I don't think I'd have been able to do it. Possibly if the greenhouse was there with one of the other characters, but that's what allowed me to do it.
See, I found I got the upgrades early on that gave me, I think it was like a barley sugar.
Yeah.
Or whatever, the wheat sugar at the start of every buy phase, and also a yeast at the start of every buy phase, as well as a coin. So it was quite a nice little, engine I had going as well. But I just wasn't able to pump out quite as much as you. I ended up making so much vodka through bad luck.
Yeah.
Really. That, I just couldn't accumulate those points fast enough.
Yeah.
And the only 2 drinks I made that weren't either moonshine or vodka were the 2 that I aged, which was my signature and a whiskey.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's the other thing is because I'm not sure if the free recipe rule, from the thing you get at the top might be a little bit too powerful. As in, because you've got the 3 tiers of rest of the gold, silver, and bronze.
Yeah.
That maybe it should lock out the gold.
Yeah, because why wouldn't you choose the gold, really?
I suppose the way they've looked at it is that it's balanced because they're harder recipes. As in, you need more ingredients.
I would disagree, because I think whiskey's gold on some of them, and that needs two wheat sugars. That's it. Which is exactly the same as some of the others that are lower down.
Like I said, mine required 3 vegetable sugars, but by dint of that, because at minimum you need 3, means you're putting 3 alcohol in, as well as yeast and water. It's like
I think
the odds of that failing are low.
The other thing that does make it a little bit harder is that requirement for a lot of the higher ones to have a different barrel.
Yeah,
the wooden, stick them in the wooden barrel.
Yeah.
So I guess there is an added thing there.
They're getting me money. I'm getting a free. This is why I could do it, because I'm getting a free vegetable sugar from my greenhouse, which means that every market phase, 2 vegetables in a barrel. That's my 3.
Yeah.
From my special character's ability, I can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't physically be able to do it without that character.
Yeah.
Because even with the free vegetable sugars, I could either buy 2 vegetable sugars or a vegetable sugar in a barrel. I wouldn't, and then I'm locked out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, again, game's still great. I mean, spoiler, like I said, we've played this 4 or 5 times in the last 2 weeks. It's a crazy good game. I'm really grateful to our good friend Anthony for lending it me, because it has enabled us to play it absolutely loads. But there was the option to play it again last night, because we held a game night here at my house last night.
Indeed.
But we opted... I gave you choice of games, James, and you...
Simon picked it, actually.
Did he?
I'm pretty sure Simon picked it.
I can't
or suggested it, and then I went, okay.
Yeah, maybe. I can't even remember. But we played Scythe.
We did play Scythe.
How did you enjoy that game?
That I really enjoyed. It's another game where I think both of us played differently to how we normally do.
We did. I think even Simon said he played slightly different to how he usually would. And again, this game was stupidly... I mean, this was even closer with all 3 of us. I think at the end of the game, all 3 of us were within game ending.
Yeah, it was me.
We were all on 5.
It was Simon tipped me, because it was me that ended the game.
Yes.
And it was Simon who tipped me into the ability to do it.
Yeah.
Without realising.
Yeah, and it sort of semi-screwed me over to a bit, because I'd sort of seen where we were. I was like, right, I know what I need. I need 2 turns to be able to end this game and still get a decent amount of points. I could have ended it at any point.
Yeah.
Because I could have just fought with someone and ended it that way. I had so many power points that I could have just gone, yep, I'll dive in, use all my power and whack all of my cards in to guarantee that I'm going to win, basically.
Yep.
But I wanted to spread my units out so that I got the end of game bonuses and all that kind of stuff. And I planned that I could still do it and get those points. And I would do it 1 turn before you would have ended the game. Simon would have probably ended the game maybe 1 or 2 turns after us. But then he did something. I can't remember what it was, but because of the enlist actions that we'd done.
Yeah, he whatever he did gave me a popularity,
wasn't it? Yeah.
And it pushed me within 2 of the top.
Yeah, and you had an ability to do it.
I had 2 stars left, and I can't remember what it was, but it enabled me in 1 action to get both the stars.
Yeah.
And I even at that point, because I took a gamble, and the gamble ultimately didn't pay off, because I knew we were all close, but I wasn't
quite sure.
I wasn't at that point where it's like, I know I'm definitely going to win. I was just at that point, it's like, this is so close. I'm going to end it, even though I technically probably want 1 more turn.
Yeah.
Because it's that close.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's like, I'd rather play tactically and deny you 2 the opportunity to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And have the last.
I'd figured that that's what was going to happen, which is why in my last turn, knowing that you were about to end the game, I did something I didn't actually plan to do at that point, which was to gain 1 popularity, because I was 1 away from being in that top tier.
Yeah, in the top tier.
And I needed to be in that top tier to stand a hope in hell of being anywhere near close to you guys. So I obviously had to do something that did that. But yeah, to end the game, Simon won the game. He ended up with 91. I ended on 85, and James, you ended on 79.
Yep.
A 12-point difference between last and first place. What a game.
Yep.
What a game. All
I would have done with 1 more turn, like you said, is spread out and potentially started a combat.
Yep.
Because I could have. That's the other way I could have. I had about 4 choices for those 2 stars. It was popularity, power, combat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And something, I think those 3. I think it's like those are the possible ways I could have got those stars out, and it was just sort of like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
but I took the gamble.
Great fun. Great fun. I love Scythe. I really do. I'm so glad that I finally got my own copy.
Yeah, because I had all my workers out. That's the other thing, and all my mechs and that. It's like it would have been very easy for me to like in one turn.
Yeah.
Maximum movement of like 3 things. It's like, yeah, I could just spread out like crazy here.
Yeah. I mean, theoretically, it's a shame you didn't, because strategically, if you had and instigated a fight, and if you were then allowed us to win, we would have lost so much reputation.
Yep.
Because we were, killing off an army with all the workers.
Yep.
And you lose that one reputation per worker.
Yeah, because that's the other way. I could have literally picked up all my workers and gone in a mech and gone, I'm going to come and fight you because if you make me retreat, well,
that's the thing. Is I probably would have considered it. Like actually splitting your workers, was it 8 workers? Splitting them into 2 4s, two single unit mechs and starting 2 fights. Doing a movement and then ending in both of our things, because then we're both going to lose or stand the risk of losing 4 popularity, which would have immediately put us below.
Yeah, I should have thought about that.
Think about your things, James.
Alas. Next time.
Yes, indeed. But that's Scythe. Love the game. Always happy to play Scythe. I bet we'll be playing it again very soon. Now that I've got my own copy, it's a game that's going to hit the table a lot, I think. But yes, just very quickly before we swish onto our game we played last year. Last week, we didn't put an episode out, James.
We did not.
We recorded an episode for last week.
We did.
And I'm just going to hold up my hands now and say I took the decision not to put the episode out. Because when the editing phase came, I sat down and I listened to it, and it was garbage. Not in the sense of bad audio quality or anything like that. Nothing like that at all. It's just, we were talking about Star Wars Rivals, which is a game we've been playing, well, not a stupid amount recently.
Once
or twice. I've played it a few times, but we were talking about that. And it wasn't a particularly positive conversation about it, but the long story short is it was way too obvious that neither of us had any interest in what we were talking about. It sounded very dull and stuff like that. So I hold my hands up and say, I'm not prepared to put content like that out. It probably didn't help that when we recorded it, we were both very, very tired.
I mean, we were,
because we did it late.
Even when we've quote unquote given a bad review, torn into a game, it's been justifiable. We've been actively wanting to talk about the game because I had that feeling when we were actually recording that episode. It's like, this is just so meh. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the silver lining here, so spoiler alert, because I'm never going to put that episode out. Spoiler alert, we don't like the game. It's very boring. It's very basic. And we probably don't really recommend it unless you happen to be a gamer that wants to play with their child, because it's that. It's an expensive game in the sense of it has a TCG model of buying the models, you're blind buying them. It's not good. I think it's a massive cash cow. I think Funko have done better. So take that for what you will. That's all we're going to talk about it. Probably won't talk about it again. But silver lining, James, it gave us today's topic.
It did.
Good. But before we do that, very, very quickly, James, do you know the game we played last year?
I do not.
Gang Sean Clever.
Gang Sean Clever?
Gang Sean Clever is what we talked about last year. How do you feel about Gang Sean Clever a year on?
I still have the app on my phone, which I play when I'm bored at work.
See, that's really good. I haven't played the app or anything like that for a while. But then again, my work has gone through the roof recently, so I haven't really had the choice. But do you still enjoy the game, James?
I do.
Just boredom?
No. I still enjoy it, and it still vexes me when I can't get a good score.
We haven't personally played it together for a little while.
We have not.
It's come along to a couple of game clubs, but it's generally gotten to the point where we've run out of time on an evening. And we've both sort of said when we've seen it in the bag, gone, yeah, I want to play that. But then the game's taken too long. We've not been able to play it. Is it a game you still want to play in person, or are you happy just leaving it to...
No, I'm
digital?
still perfectly happy to play it in person. It's just when you're waiting for your delivery time slot to open and you're sitting in the van. It's like, yep, just click the app on.
Yeah.
Play a bit of Gang Strong Clever.
It's a pretty good app, to be
It
fair. It is a very good app. And it's not, you don't feel like you're playing on your own.
No.
Which I always find is a bit weird when I'm playing PC versions of board games. You kind of feel like, yeah, I'm playing a solo game. Whereas Gang Strong Clever's amazingness comes from that sort of multiplayerality to it. So yeah, Gang Strong Clever, James, a year on, how do you feel?
Good. I like it.
Good. I give it a thumbs up as well. So that's the game we played last year. Now, should we go on to our main topical for this evening, James?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the countdown.
Yeah, it's been a while since we had that little intro, isn't it? Hell of a long time. So yes, we're going to be doing a top 5, James.
Yes.
It was on the list to do. However, last week's little indiscretion, shall we say, has given us cause to bring it forward and actually talk about the top 5 things that we personally are turned off by within games, or, you know, the kind of thing where if someone's talking about playing a game and you sort of like, you see maybe the mechanism, it's got a mechanism that you don't like, other things like maybe you just don't like the look of it, and all the things that make us feel that, you know what, don't really want to try that, or I would say not really a game that's, or it's not really something that's an automatic, hell no, I'm not playing it. You know, that's how I've personally written my list, James, is everything on there isn't like set in stone. It's not absolute. Yeah. Doesn't mean I won't play the game ever.
Yeah, we all have those, you know, it's the opposite to, you know, someone, the games we've just talked about, someone puts Distilled or Scythe on the table, you're like, I'm in.
Yeah.
This is the top 5 list of things that someone puts a game on the table and you sort of go,
There's just something about it.
Yeah.
Something about it you're not so keen on. If there's something better, you'd rather go for that, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not us hitting on it or saying we'll never ever play games that have these things in or involved in. It's just these are the things that will make us think twice about 2 or 3 times about playing that game.
And that's how I've written my list. You know, it's not guaranteed that I won't play the game. It's just it's giving me thoughts about whether I actually want to sit down and play it.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's fair enough. So where do we start, James? I mean, I guess number 5 would be a good place to start, wouldn't it?
5 to 1, because that's how my list is constructed.
5 to 1. See, mine's the opposite. I've had to scroll down to the bottom of my list to then go back up. But yeah, we'll start at number 5. James, I'm going to let you go first.
Okay.
So, what is your number 5, good sir?
Poorly written rules.
Oh, he's going straight at it.
Yes.
Damn. Okay, James, why do you not like poorly written rules?
Well,
what a stupid question.
Why do I? No, I want all my games to be written with awful rules or awful explanations of rules. Basically, if you have to keep flicking to the rule book, and not just because you're inexperienced playing the game, if it's, is that how it's supposed to work? I don't really know, because it's not really explained very well. Is that how it's supposed to work?
Yeah.
It's immersion breaking. It slows the game down.
Yeah.
And if you've played a game and you know the rules are convoluted and poorly explained, it's just
it is a bit of a turn off, I guess. So I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I would say poorly written rules, is that more something you would say is a turn off after you've already played the game?
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to have played it to truly appreciate, this. You have to have at least read the rule book.
Yeah. I'd probably modify that one slightly if it were me, rather than just poorly written rule books, but just poorly constructed rule books, because that can obviously say something like the rules are badly written, but also, I'm looking at the corner of my eye, I see Hogs of War. This is a game I really wanted. I went all out. I paid lots of money for it. I painted all the miniatures. Then I sat down to read the rule book. Or more importantly, I sat down with the rulebook, looked at the size of it. Darwin's Journey is the same. I looked at the rulebook and it's just like, it's huge. And I sort of look inside, this looks really convoluted and really badly written.
But the thing is,
and that puts me off.
A large rulebook can be intimidating, but coming from a tabletop wargaming background, some of those rulebooks are seriously intimidating,
Yes.
hardback books that are 300 pages long.
Effectively, we used to call them paving slabs.
Yeah, but I've never had a problem learning those rules.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, a lot of those 300 pages, is, especially if it's from a certain company, is
Yes.
filler and fluff.
Yeah.
But the rules, or at least the basic rules, are easy enough to grasp.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's sort of like, I don't know why I was intimidated by this. Is actually, at its heart, a fairly simple game.
Yeah. No, I can totally get behind where you're coming from on that one.
So a big rule book is not necessarily indicative of badly written, but
Yeah.
when it is badly written, it's just 10 times worse.
Yeah, exactly. I think ultimately writing a rule book is a skill in itself.
Yep.
Anyone could write rules down, but only a skilled person can make them readable
Yes.
and, easily conveyed to everyone or the majority of people. You're never going to please everyone, but easily conveyed to other people.
Yeah.
So I would agree with that.
At the very least, you should, by the time you've read the rule book, you'll sort of go, oh, yeah, I get this.
I get the gist.
That should be what you should be thinking. If you'll put the rule book down and you're just looking at the game going,
Yeah.
then something's wrong.
Yeah. No, I'm totally on board with you on that one, James. Totally on board with you. Not so much that it's my number 5, but my number 5 is something in the same vein, though, because with what you're saying with the rule book, it can lead to confusion, and just general misunderstanding of things in the game. I think my number 5 is also something like that, which is what I've called tokens galore. Too many tokens on a table. It's just, you sort of, we always talk about table presence of these games and how eye-catching they are and stuff like that. But the polar opposite of that is so much stuff on the table puts me off. I look at it and go, that looks like a mess. It looks like I'm going to get confused. What the hell is all this for? For me, too many tokens in a game is a bit of a turn-off. And I sort of, a personal story of that would be, I used to solely play Warhammer.
Mm-hmm.
Warhammer Fantasy and 40k. And then I decided to, broaden my horizons. And one of the first things that people suggested to me was Star Wars X-Wing. And I loved Star Wars. I loved the idea of flying, a flying game and a dogfighting game and stuff like that. And what put me off was lots of tokens, lots of cards all over the table. And it just looked confusing. It was no different to a codex for my Warhammer armies, but it was just spread out all over the table rather than tucked away nicely.
Yeah.
And that's what really put me off. Is I've got the tokens here. Then I've got a dial, and then I've got cards. And, board games for me aren't necessarily that bad. It's not all about the tokens, but it has the same issue because if you've got your meeples, you've got your cubes, you've got your tokens, you've got your miniatures in some games, you've got all this other, and it's all placed on top of one potentially already busy board.
Yeah.
And it just looks imposing.
Yeah. I mean, as someone who actually played X-Wing or version 1 of X-Wing, I'm totally with you on the tokens thing. I mean, I used to have a tool case that just had
an actual tool case
that had the tokens in them. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to turn around and say punchboard tokens too many, because 2D tokens, when there are hundreds of them around, they do get very confusing, even if they've got artwork on them, which is why the secondary market and the Kickstarter upgrades thing, I think, is so popular, because when they pop, it's a lot easier to figure out at a glance what they all do. Like the Scythe upgrades that you've got for the resources are a good example of that. You just got a glance, you'd know what it is.
Yeah.
That was a punchboard token and they were all over the place. It'd be horrible.
Yeah. It would just all blend together.
Yeah.
It just becomes a bit of a mess. And
money, punchboard money can be like that. I mean, again, to use Scythe as an example, it's that's one downside I think the base level thing has in it, is try to work out what all the different denominators, despite the fact that they are different colours. It's like they're close to each other. It can be a bit sort of, you actually have to pay attention to what is this, which is why I'm very glad that you've gone out and bought metal coins.
Yeah, not the Scythe metal coins, but my generic metal
bag,
coins. Yeah,
because cuts down on some of that confusion.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you on table clutter if it's not well done.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that you've summed it up there perfectly. Really, is like table clutter is actually a really good terminology. Better than tokens galore, because I'm not solely going after tokens here. Just general
table clutter.
Table clutter. You know, like, let's be honest. We all know I'm quite anal about these things. I'm obsessed with box inserts.
Yeah.
And all the box inserts I buy, they are also used for organisation on the table. It keeps the clutter down, keeps confusion down, and yeah, it helps to avoid gaming disasters as well, James, because too much stuff on the table makes drink spills far too easy.
Yes.
So I am not a fan of table clutter.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up there with the organisers as well. It's like if you've got a busy game and you've just got piles of tokens and stuff, you know, I'll use Nemesis as an example for that. If you know, luckily that comes with a pretty good organisation system off the bat. There are better ones that you can buy, but it's like the cards, if they're loose on the table, the piles get knocked over and mixed together. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on. The tokens all get mixed up. It's sort of, if there's too much, it's like it's great, but it's terrible at the same time.
Yeah, sometimes less is more.
Yes,
in certain circumstances. So yeah, that is my number 5. I'm going to take your name, James. Table clutter.
Yes,
that's my number 5. So let's move on to the number 4s. James, your number 4, sir.
Game length.
Game length.
Specifically, if it's too long.
Oh, I thought you were talking about you don't like short games, James. I thought you were only into 4+ hours.
This is specifically to do with the longer end of the game.
Okay, cool. So what do you deem as too long a game?
I think my tolerance is better than yours is.
Oh yeah. That's no secret.
I could do 2, I'd say 2 to 3
at
a push, which it's a shame, you know, because there's a perfect example of this is TI4. I have never played it. It is, by all accounts, right up my street in terms of genre, but I hear people talk about how long it takes to play, and immediately I'm just like, I can't commit to that.
No.
So, you know, that's I'm not sure if I class that so much as a turn off, because I genuinely want to play the game.
Yeah.
But it's just, I can't commit to that length. And why is it that long?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, sort of, for me, when it comes to game length, I am just sort of definitely there with you. And it's no secret to anyone. I've been quite vocal about the fact that I prefer games to be sat at maybe the hour and a half, 2 hours maximum. Distilled is the perfect example of the game we played the other day. At the 4-player count, that's a 2.5 hour game. And I was okay with it. I didn't mind it because there was enough going on. It kept my interest. But yeah, I am with you on game length. I think games that are too long is just, I can play more games in that time. And I'd rather have more games on my list than less, I think is the trick there. So yeah. Do you think it works the other way as well, though? Do you think there are games that are too short, or is it just about being too long?
I wouldn't say that falls into a turn-off.
Okay.
You know, I'm not going to turn around and be put off by a game because, it's only going to take 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to be umming and ahhing about a game if it's 3+ hours long.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough.
You know, again, though, game length, as we talk about regularly on here, you do have to
take with a pinch of salt.
A pinch of salt, because it might say a time on the box, but more experienced players could probably hammer through it quicker.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's definitely one that comes from experience. It's like, I've played this game. It takes ages.
Yeah.
Not so sure I want to go through that again.
No, that's fair enough. Anything else you want to say about that, James?
Nope.
Okay, cool. So my number 4 actually follows on somewhat from my last one, number 5. And this one is the over-reliance by publishers on iconography and symbology in games. If I find a game that just spams iconography and symbology all over the place, it is a bit of a turn-off for me, because there's no uniformity between different publishers. You're never going to get to a situation where a symbol or a icon of some sort is the same for every publisher, which means I've only got to learn one symbol to know what it means in all games. You'll never get that.
No.
And I understand that we'll never get that. I'm not griping that. But there are some games you just sort of turn up to, and a whole page in the book is like a reference sheet for what each icon means.
Yeah.
I haven't got time to learn that, as well as the rules for the game. If I'm learning a game for the first time, or even trying to teach it to someone,
Yeah, I find...
I've then got, that's the rules of the game. Now I'm going to teach you what all these symbols mean.
Yeah, I find, I'm not sure I'm using the right terminology, but I find games that have reaction mechanics are the worst offenders for that. It's like, if this symbol appears when your opponent plays it, you must do this.
Yeah.
It's like, this is going to be a whole page of symbology, isn't there?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, you've already summed up exactly one of the main reasons that the problem with too much iconography and symbology within games is it can be, in certain circumstances, game immersion breaking, because it's like, something's happened. What does this icon mean? Oh, hang on a minute. Now I've got to come out of my game to explain what that is. And I'm out of my immersion. They're out of their immersion. We're not having a fun time because we're having to reference the rule book.
Yep.
This is what the symbol means. Okay, cool. But what about this one? Okay, right. Well, that one is this. That one's this. That one's... And rather than waiting for it, you then start doing the teach again.
Yeah, and this can lead into my number 5, which is I have played games like that where they didn't include the quick reference.
Yeah.
And the symbology explanations are on the relevant pages to whatever rule happens to come in. So it's like, oh, well, right now I'm going to look at the contents panel. Which page is this symbol on?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so it can link back into my number 5 of poorly written rules if they haven't included the index of symbology.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think the reliance to put symbols everywhere to try and cut down on clutter. So I'm thankful that they're trying to cut down on clutter and making the boards or cards or whatever it is too busy. However, it's had, putting too much of it has an adverse effect as well.
Yeah.
It's finding that common ground. I'm not an expert, but I do feel that seeing too much symbols puts me off of a game, much the same as seeing a game that's absolutely cluttered puts me off of a game.
Yep.
Again, I'm not saying every publisher does this, but there are some games out there that you just sort of think, this board is just like math symbols everywhere, and it looks like, Chinese writing all over this board and, hieroglyphics over here, and it's like, I don't know what any of this means. Space Base is a perfect example, actually, when we played that, James, constantly, what does this icon mean?
Yep.
What does this icon mean? It's not intuitive, especially when it's a game that's based on symbology and iconography. It needs to be intuitive. Otherwise, I've got to have we're playing a tiny little card game, but I've got to have a board size reference sheet of all the symbols in the center of the table so that everyone can see it.
Yep.
I don't want that. No one wants that. Too much iconography in games. That's my number 4. Are you ready for your number 3?
I am indeed.
Let's do it. Number 3, James.
Complexity, both too little and too much.
Okay.
So this is a really fussy one, this one.
I wouldn't expect anything less of you, sir.
Definitely. The reason that both of those caveats are there is because when I sit down to play a board game, I need enough complexity that I'm not going to get bored really quickly.
Star Wars Rivals?
Yes. I mean, I think I lasted one round in that before. Yeah, but you actually turned around and said you want to play. No. Yeah. So it needs enough complexity to be engaging, but I also don't want to feel like I just sat on a degree in board gaming exam.
So the super heavyweight, like Vita Lacerda games, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's that if it's just sort of, that complex, it's just sort of, I want to be stimulated, but I don't want to feel like my brain is melting.
Yeah. I can totally understand that. Like, again, you guys out there, roughly what games we play quite regularly. We're not into the super, 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 super heavyweight stuff where, you've done a week's worth of brain training in 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we wouldn't play those games. It's just, if there's something else available,
Or
or I'm not quite in the mood for it. Maybe it's sometimes you just don't want to have your brain melted.
Yeah, it's TI4 for me is another example of that. I've heard it is silly complex and takes a long time. So it's like, despite the fact that I kind of want to play it, I'm not so sure I do at the same time.
Yeah. No, I can totally get that, mate. I can totally understand that. Complexity is, again, it's something that, this is why we talk about these things when we do a game highlight episode. Who are we recommending it for? Well, we're talking about a medium weight game. If you don't like medium weight games, then this is too complicated for you. It's too complex. Go for something lighter. I think something like Board Game Geek is, again, very good for that because you get that sort of complexity rating on it. I mean, I want to do an episode about the ratings on there at some point because some of them are just crazy and just not accurate in any way, shape or form. But, James needs to spend a bit more time on Board Game Geek to actually have a clue what he's looking at, really.
Yes.
With regards to that. But, yeah, complexity in games, mate. I'm totally there with you. If I'm playing a game that is mind-numbingly easy, it's probably with my son, which is acceptable. If I'm playing with a game with yourself or with another club member, I can't be dealing with something that literally is...
Yeah, I think that I've just been sitting here thinking about it. I think there's a tack onto this as well, which definitely ties into complexity, and that is if I'm playing a game and I'm looking at some of the mechanics or the way the game works and gone, this is overly complicated and it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
That's a really bad offender for me that will make me question whether I want to play this game again. It's like, does it need to be this complicated?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so too complicated is definitely a thing.
Yeah.
And not complicated enough is also a thing.
Yeah, complexity for complexity's sake is definitely what it's like. I could have done this a lot more streamlined and it would have...
When you've played a game and then you can instantly sit there going, it didn't need that mechanism, or that mechanism.
Yeah.
And the game wouldn't have
changed at all.
At all, in the sense of, the game outcome would have been exactly the same, but because you've put these three mechanisms in it, it's made it complicated.
Yeah. Or you're just looking at it and going, this doesn't need to be this complicated. It's like you could have done, instead of going A to B to C to D, you could have gone A to D and it wouldn't have changed the game at all.
Yeah, exactly.
B and C didn't need to be in there.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. So complexity, that was your number 3. My number 3, James, is games that have... I'm still not even sure how I would categorize this, but games that have solo, co-op, semi-co-op, and competitive, or a combination of any of those. Multiple different types of gameplay, i.e. any game can be competitive and have a solo mode. Okay, solo modes and whatever one of the others is fine. But putting something like a competitive game and then giving it another variation in the same box that's co-op, I'm yet to find one that works. Because a game is designed as a particular type.
Yeah.
Which means everything else is tacked on. And I've not played every version of these, so don't come at me on that. But I'm yet to find a game where I've picked it up and it's got competitive and cooperative.
Yeah.
2 different modes in the same game, and that both of them work as well as each other. More often than not, games are designed as competitive, and then in order to get those little extra pennies in the bank and make extra sales, they stick a solo mode in there, they stick a co-op mode in there, maybe not a semi-co-op mode, but they would have stuck an extra an extra variation in there in order to sell just a few extra copies.
Yeah. Because
there may be players out there that only play co-op. There may be players out there that only play competitive. There may be players that only play solo. So we need them all in there. But which one of them was the original? Which one is going to be the best?
Yeah.
Because I only want the best experience, which is how the game was designed. One of the games that we really want to play, James, is we really want to play Sky Team, which is a 2-player co-op game. Do I want them to put in a competitive mode in there? No.
Well,
because it won't work.
One, it won't work. 2, it will be completely immersion breaking.
Well, yeah, it would. But yeah, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
If they decided to do that, that is nothing more than I want to sell a few extra copies of this game to people that don't play co-op games.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it. It doesn't work. Prove me wrong. Tell me a game that actually works really well on both, and I will try it.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but it's almost like they overreach with that. It's like if it's designed as a competitive, I can see you putting a semi-cooperative mechanic or version in there, but to go fully co-op is probably going to break something. And vice versa, you could go from a co-op game to a semi-co-op game, but I don't think you could go from a fully co-op to a competitive.
Yeah, which is the most common one.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't think it works. So there you go. Games that have different variations in the same box doesn't work for me. I'm sorry, I just don't like it. That is probably the first one on my list that I would actively say does put me off playing a game more than the other stuff so far. So there you go. That's my number 3. Let's move on to the number 2s. Number 2, James.
Number 2. Right. My number 2, Jason, is, I'm going to come out and say this. This is entirely personal to me.
Okay.
And that is dexterity. Because I'm just not very good at them.
See, now this is a lie, James. You're lying because you like Crocodile. You actually quite enjoy playing Cobra Paw. They're both dexterity games.
Yeah, but I'm not very good at either. So it's more like there's only so many times you can get your butt whipped before you sort of go, I'm just not in the mood.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. We've always known though that you're not a big fan of dexterity
games. Well, there are subgenres of dexterity. Like I enjoy Crocodile more than other types of dexterity. I would say I enjoy Crocodile more than Cobra Paw.
Yep.
Because although they're both dexterity games, Cobra Paw has a reaction element to it.
Yes.
Which is where my downfall. My reactions are terrible.
Yeah.
Which is where my downfall comes from. I'm still not particularly good at Crocodile, but I can take the time to line my shot up.
Yeah, and then still miss.
And still miss. I was aiming for the pegs.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was my plan to knock it off the board across the room.
It was. I was aiming for you.
Yeah. I mean, more often than not, that's true. But okay. So dexterity. Yeah. But proving, James, that as we said at the start, these things aren't absolute.
Yeah.
Just because you dislike dexterity games doesn't mean you won't play.
Again, it's definitely that thing. If someone says, oh, it's a dexterity game, it's like, okay, I'm immediately not feeling it.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Okay. So you basically just don't get on with that style of mechanism.
Yeah.
Which leads me on nicely because my number 2 is actually a mechanism as well. Very personal to me. Real-time games. I hate them. I hate real-time games with a passion. I suck at them. I just do not like them. I don't gel with the mechanism. There's very, very few out there that do.
Yep.
Ones that's sitting on my shelf right now, Project Elite. I get on with that.
Yep.
2-minute timers, it's real-time dice rolling and all that. But it's one of a very few select games that I enjoy that have a real-time element to it. You know, I like the feeling of pressure in my games, but I like my pressure to come from strategy, to come from the puzzle of the game, not from some poxy egg timer that some designer has decided has predetermined a time to give me a stress-induced panic attack.
Yeah.
I don't get on with the time element of it. I get, because I know we've had this discussion in the past that you quite like the time pressure stuff in games, don't you? Because it's the same as your work and everything outside. Like if there's a deadline, you're more motivated to do stuff. Whereas,
I'm still not sure whether I like it. Again, I would look at the game. I'm with you on this one with real time games. It's like I'd have to look at the game overall and go, because I don't like when turns drag on to infinity, but I like to do my turn. Not like I said, not be staring at an egg timer.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not, I pick on the egg timer. It's not just that, Project Elite comes with a phone app that has a 2-minute countdown with some special music and stuff, and other things have the same. Is it a 2-minute timer on your phone, 30-second timer, whatever it is. I can't gel with the mechanism. I don't always suffer from analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
However, I find if I'm under a time pressure, that's when my mind goes, nah,
Yeah.
No. I want time to think of it. No, you don't have time. Yeah, but I'm going to take my time.
Yeah.
Starfighters, Rapid Fire. That's another one. Doesn't have a timer, but the timer is how quickly is James rolling his damn dice.
Yeah.
Because he's rolling them and just assigning them wherever. And I'm sitting here trying to be, well, I'm going to assign that one. Oh, he's done it already. I've done one dice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting destroyed this turn, then I. And it's things like that. It's the pressure puts just a bit too much of the wrong pressure on me.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like it. And more often than not, if you are trying to get me to play a real-time game, I will find every excuse under the sun as to why I don't want to play it. But the truth of the matter is, it's because it's got that real-time element. I'm not interested. I don't gel with it. I don't have fun playing it, with very, very few exceptions. Project Elite being one of them. There you go. Real-time games, not a big fan. Yeah. You haven't played that many real-time games, really, have you? Well, because I don't own them.
Yeah.
We'll have to get you to try something like Kitchen Rush or something.
I have played Kitchen Rush at the old Friday Club.
Yes.
I didn't enjoy it at all.
No. That was, I believe, the first game I ever played of with a real-time element. And yeah, I didn't like it. So, that's the number 2, James. Are you ready for the penultimate number 1?
Yeah.
Let's do it. James, what is your number 1 thing that puts you off of playing games?
My number 1 thing, and it is the thing that, to be honest, controls the other 4.
Okay.
And I think it's very important to mention this one, mood. It is the controller for all of the others.
I can definitely agree with this one, because I'm obviously very good friends with you, James. You are one moody, swinging SOB.
Genuinely, all of the other things that we've mentioned are controlled by mood, because as we've said multiple times, these aren't absolute, and what is controlling whether they are a yay or a nay is just the mood you're in at the time.
Yeah. What's your day been like? All that kind of stuff, yeah?
Or am I in the mood to suffer?
Yep.
I know I don't like this. Am I in the mood to put myself through it because somebody else wants to play it?
Okay.
You know, I know that friend A has been banging on wanting to play this game for ages. I know it's a dexterity game. I don't really want to play it, but am I in the mood to be nice because somebody else wants to play it and hasn't been able to get it to the table? Yeah.
I mean, you were about to utter the words, James.
Am I in the mood?
Am I, I'm not, or I'm not in the mood for that.
Yeah.
I've used it a few times. So 100%, what mood am I in? Have I had a bad day at work? Like I said, when we played Star Wars Rivals and we recorded that episode, we were in arguably a bad mood, a bad place, because we'd both been working that day. We'd done extra hours each.
Yep.
It'd been a long, hot day. We were just in a bad mood.
Yep.
It was a poor decision to try and record. Same as if we were playing a game. That would have been a really bad time.
Yep.
Games can bring up your mood, but really, do you want to play something that kind of puts you off at the best of times?
Yeah.
If you're in a bad mood, it's probably not the best idea, is it?
No.
So I'll get, you could say that's a bit of a cop-out, James. But
but it's not.
It's not. It's a very, very good answer.
Yeah.
And it's worthy of that top spot as well.
Yeah, and the reason it's in that top spot, because it is going to determine all of the others.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. I mean, I'm a tad annoyed that you may have pipped me to the post, really, that, mine's going to seem like really anticlimactic now. More so because, one, that's a really good number 1, James, but 2, because you picked me at the post on it earlier, because my number 1 that puts me off of games is game length. I talked about it earlier. I don't really need to say much more. Games are too long. Over 2 hours, and you're going to have an uphill struggle getting me to play that game with you. You're going to have to really work hard to sell that game to me. And the best way to do it, again, to hark back to Distilled here, there's no actual game time on the box. It's 30 minutes per player. I'm too stupid to figure out what time 4 players is going to be. No, it's only 2 hours, but because it says 30 minutes on the box, my brain goes, 30 minutes. I know it's not 30 minutes. No, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. But it's a very good way to do it. Whereas if I look at I look at some games, and it's, I look at some games on Kickstarter, for example, and I see 2 to 3 hours, I'm not going to back it. It's not going to be a game I'm going to play. It probably is. It's probably a really good game. There's a couple of games on there at the moment that I'm interested in, but they're a bit too long. So I'm not going to back it. I'll let someone else do that. But yeah, game length for me is the number one thing I would say that I've turned down playing games more than anything else because it's too long. In that 2 hours, I can play two different games. My amount of plays per year, because I'm sad like that and log my plays, and I like to see how many games I've played this year. That's 2 for the price of 1. 3 for the price of 1 in the form of Ark Nova. And I love Ark Nova, but it's 2 to 3 hours.
Yep.
Game length is a big, big turn off for me if it's too long. I don't care about short games. If anything, I love short games because I can get more games in a smaller amount of time. So game length for me is my number one.
As I said earlier in mine, it's like game length for me becomes a problem once I've actually played the game. Yep. I will usually sit down and play it, mainly because I'm sort of sitting there and saying, if I'm playing with another group, for example, it's like, okay, this game's posted at 3+ hours. Having played it, I know my regular gaming group could knock this out in half that time. Yeah. So I could sell it to them. Yeah. Because it might say 3 hours, but to be honest, guys, we could play this in an hour and a half.
Yeah. 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 It'll take a little bit to get going, but then once you've got it going, we know we're bang, 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 we'll get it done.
Yeah. And there's been a couple of games where we've sort of ummed and ahed about that. And then once we've actually sat down and played it, it's like, well, actually, no, it's not anywhere close to the stated time when we play it. It's a lot quicker.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else you want to bring up? Any honourable mentions for you?
I do have one honourable mention. And
I will let you do your one because I have more than that.
Yeah, I have one honourable mention, and it was fighting for the number 2 slot. Okay. And I went with dexterity because that's a personal one, and I know you had a personal one on your list, which is why I did there. Number 2, potential. I'm not saying this is a personal one because I know so many people, yourself included, this one applies to, and it is another game mechanic. Okay. And that's player elimination.
Yes, that's one of my honourable mentions. Yeah. And this came in at number 6 for me. Yeah. Very, very close to making that list. Yeah, player elimination.
Yep.
I hate it.
Had it been on the list, because I wanted some variation in the list. I didn't want 2 game mechanics in there, but had it gone in, it would have been in that number 2 slot, definitely. Because without fail, every game I've played with player elimination, that elimination possibility can happen at any point. And it's like, that is no fun. If you're playing even an hour-long game, if you get eliminated really quickly...
Yeah, you'll sit around doing nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not fun.
I do not like player elimination, and I kind of feel, actually, at this point, I feel like I should have put it in my list because what I'm about to say, and that is player elimination is probably the one thing on my list here, and I've done 10 in total, but player elimination is the only one that I think I will just outright refuse to play those games. I do not like it. I think it's a very antiquated way of playing games, and it's not fair or fun for the people that get eliminated, especially if the game then drags, because we're all here to have fun together. Yeah. You know, if a player elimination game that's maybe 15 minutes long, all right, maybe, but they're few and far between.
They have to be quick games. Yeah. To open up. The main reason I don't like player elimination is it penalises anyone who's new to the game. Yeah. Unfairly. Yeah. Because odds on, those are the people who are going to get eliminated first.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
How to put someone off a game really quickly.
Yeah. So player elimination, mate. 100% there with you on that one. Bad rule books was one of mine as well, as for the reasons we've talked about. Colossal rule books was another one, but I've sort of blended that in with the rulebook thing earlier. You sort of semi-touched on it on that last one, actually. The game group itself. Now, this isn't me being elitist at all, but there are certain games that I just won't play with certain people for a variety of reasons. Maybe they just don't like a heavyweight game, and that is a heavyweight game I'm playing, you know. So, you know, if I see, say, I don't know, let's say little Jimmy, he's got analysis paralysis, and he knows he's got analysis paralysis, but he really wants to play, Ark Nova. We'll say Ark Nova. There's a lot of thinking to be done in Ark Nova. It's not the heaviest game. It's not the most complicated game, but we'll just say that it's a really heavy game. I'm not so sure I'd want to play it because it's like, well, this game's now gone from being a 2-hour game to a 3-hour game. mixing in with my game length thing here. So certain people, certain games, I just, I've got different groups. I've got the people that like playing just fun games. So introducing a war game into that group, it's just not going to work. That would be a turn off for me. So it's a more mild thing there. And number 10, and I kept putting this in at number 1. It's not worthy of being on the top 5, but I've caught. Do you ever get those people, James, that come up to you trying to sell you a game? Not literally sell, but sell playing a game to you where they go, it's basically Cards Against Humanity.
Yes.
No, stop. I don't care about your lazy re-theme of Cards Against Humanity and how can I be the most offensive that I can be. It was fun when it first come out, but then every party game, seemingly, since, has to have the word, not safe for work. It's not. Why? I don't care.
Yeah.
I can't stand them.
If someone says to me, it's basically Cards Against Humanity, no thanks.
Yeah. It's basically Cards Against Humanity. Cool. Enjoy playing that away from me. I'm going to go and play a proper game. Thanks.
Ah, that's elitist, Jason.
That is elitism. That's the only form of elitism I'm going to accept. And on that note, I'm gonna calm down. I'm not going to go off on a Cards Against Humanity rant because the editing will be phenomenal. We only crossed over once, James.
Yes.
I'm actually impressed with that. Very impressed with that. And I'm also really impressed, James, that you did your homework. I told you what the episode was. I gave you a full 24 hours, James.
You did.
I was organised, damn it. But you did your homework. I'm very proud of you. Well done, sir. Did you enjoy the episode, though?
I did enjoy the episode.
Good. I feel like we did a bit better this week.
Yes.
There was a bit more passion involved.
There was.
But mainly because I could talk about things that annoy me and rage me a bit.
Yes.
So
everyone likes a good moan, and this is basically what this episode has been.
Indeed. And for the first time in quite a long time, I forgot to put my phone on silent. So, there's some editing to do to get that out. And James, you remembered, so you did better than me. So there you go. Do you want to head off?
Yes.
Let's head off because we have been talking for a long time. Till next week, I have been Jason.
And I've been James.
And you have been listening to the Meeple Minded podcast. Join us next week for more tabletop gaming goodness. Ta-ta and goodbye.